Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am making a book review on this book and it is resting on my easel and it's a little bit of a clunky setup, but bear with me. I'm doing my best with what I've got. So this book is quite popular. It got recommended to me online as a bit of a gem, and spoiler alert, it is not a gem. So this book, before I get into it, I want to let you know that this book is a historical book, not a practitioner's book. And it was written in like the 1950s, 1960s in the UK. So it is a dated piece. And so I will be taking that into consideration with how I view this material. So there's a little yellow tab up here because I'm going back through it, or I was going back through it to highlight some stuff. But, what's that? Like, comment, and subscribe. I know, extremely cheesy, but it really does help out small channels like my own to really grow. So I'll take that cheesy sign off. I don't know. The bit sounded better in my head. But yeah. So I've got a few bits tabbed so that I can refer to those things that I quoted in this video, but I will not be going through the whole book with you, and I will be letting you know my views, and as the title says, as an actual witch. So, the first bit I have tabbed here is, occultists do not believe that demons can be dismissed as products of overactive human imagination, nor do Roman Catholic theologians. There are two streams of magical tradition about the devil and his angels. In one tradition, the devil is the magician's god, as in witchcraft, and his favor is won by worshipping him and doing his will. In the other, demons are evil intelligences which have great power but which can be dominated by a magician who is sufficiently strong and daring. Demons are subdued by the force of the magician's will in rituals of blood and sacrifice, perfumes, symbols, and curses. These operations are said to be extremely dangerous. So, right off the bat, the issue here is that Richard was saying that the devil is the god of witches, and that is something that is notorious, and it's a persistent thing that never leaves us alone. And yes, there are witches who do follow Satan or any other variation of devil figure and demonic forces, but it should not be applied to all witches. By saying the devil is the magician's god, as in witchcraft, it's saying on only page 8 that witches follow the devil. And another thing here that I have got is in section 2, imitative magic and the magical link. It says knots are very sinister things, much used by witches, because to tie a knot is magically to tie and impede the person who is the target of the spell. An example is the terrible death talisman of the string of 9 knots, sometimes called the witch's ladder. And I just want to say, that is a load of garbage. Knot magic is not sinister, it is not for death, it can be, but it is simply one or multiple spells on one rope, one piece of cord, one string of anything. That's it. It is not a sinister piece of magic. It is not death. It is simply a more discreet way, or at least discreet to people who don't know anything about witchcraft, way to do magic. So by saying straight up that witches use not magic to tie people into their beliefs and tie them into their will and use them to kill and do bad things is really not sitting well with me. And the other thing I've got mentioned is right at the back. So this book is not exclusively about witches. It is a book about magic. However, just even titling it the black arts, it's not differentiating between white and black magic, witchcraft, and other forms of magic. It is labeling everything as the same thing. And so says the nature and even the existence of the witches' Sabbath has been much disputed. Some modern writers dismiss the whole European witch epidemic as a delusion sired by fanaticism out of credulity. Others accept the bulk of the witches' confessions as genuine. The truth probably lies between the extremes, but closer to the first of them. The evidence leaves little doubt that many innocent people made up confessions under the pressure of physical and mental torture. Some of those who confessed without torture were clearly deluded. And I do appreciate him saying that the vast majority of people who were persecuted as witches during the Inquisition's time and, the whole horrible few centuries of witch hunts was most likely those people didn't do anything wrong, they were innocent people. And I do appreciate that being said, so props where it's due. But the section here, on page 288, it says this section is called The Worship of the Devil. And that, yeah, people do worship the devil. But the point that I want to bring up here is, unfortunately for the enticing theory, the evidence proves nothing of the sort. Not enough is known about the pagan religions of Western Europe to connect any of them with the witches, and there is a gap in time between the pagan cults and the witch trials. In England, one of the last bastions of paganism in Western Europe, there is no evidence the pagan cults survived later than the time of Canute, Canute, this on the screen, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, who died in 1035, and on the continent they seem to have disappeared long before. The witches were regarded by their Christian antagonists as a new sect and were persecuted as heretics, not pagans. Pagan ideas and customs did survive in witchcraft, as in Christianity itself, but this is not the same thing as the survival of a particular cult. Witches existed from early times and were always thought to be in touch with evil spirits and powers of the underworld. In medieval Europe, the prince of the underworld and the master of demons was Satan, and it is probable that the god of the witches was not the supposed horned god of the hypothetical old religion, but the devil of Christianity. And that is probably the single most annoying thing in the whole book. So, it's another case of, don't fall down, it's another case of, the pagans of now are not the pagans of old, even though I personally know quite a few people, either from conversations online or from conversations in real life, who have said themselves, their family still follow the pagan ways from all the way back then. So no, pagans didn't disappear, and especially not in the 11th or 10th century. So that's a bit of historical lies. That is a historical lie that is forever being spread. And this book was published originally in like the 60s and 70s. I can't remember when. I think it does say, yeah, he published this in 1967 originally. So it is a dated piece, and I do understand that. And Richard is no longer here to defend himself. But in no re-releases of his book, in no later editions, did he ever come back to clarify, or anyone else to clarify, that it was dated information based on what they knew at the time? No, not a peep. And the foreword in this book by Mitch Horowitz says nothing about, this is a dated piece, it was what Richard believed at the time of its publication. Paganism, Wicca, and all that weren't particularly popular. We didn't even have the satanic panic to, bring forward occultists and stuff like that. No, not a peep. If anything, Mitch says that this book is still gold in its 50th anniversary edition in 2016, or something like that, 2015, 2016, whatever it was. So there was no clarification from either of them that this is dated. So it's just one of those witches are devil worshippers. The horned god of witches is not the pagan horned god, which I will say for a fact, for the most part, it is. The horned gods of paganism are typically the same that us witches follow, because most witches do happen to be pagans, and pagan cults, as they get classed as, didn't die out. People did become more quiet, and a lot of countries that were formerly pagan did fall to Christian swords, and they did become Christian. But people within those lands, within Europe, within the UK, and elsewhere, they did maintain their old religion, as they call it. They didn't. It didn't die out. And I've recently come across a few people who said we have always been here in regards to paganism, seeing a revival in Europe. European brothers and sisters have been returning to paganism, not because they found traces of the old ways, but because the people who survived from back then, whose families still follow that stuff, have been able to come forward because it's legal in most places to be pagan. So it's not like it is also encouraged by Wicca. Wicca is a newer religion, but that is based on paganism. But I think the problem is people they mistake neo-paganism for the only paganism that exists. And it's simply just not true. But talking about witchcraft itself and not paganism and other things, this book says witches are devil worshippers, and that is not okay. And Mitch should have specified, because it's 50 years on from when it was published, should have specified that it was a belief Richard held based on the documentations that he was able to get a hold of back then. However, we know now that this is simply not true for everyone. It's a historical account. But when you do not take responsibility for spreading information that is simply not true, it causes more problems than it does solve them. Because people who read this book is popular. I came across a lot of people on Pinterest and other places who say this book is a gem because they believe the magical information in it is true. And yes, there is a lot of diagrams in here and a lot of charts. And it talks about alchemy and it talks about some other stuff. It talks about Aleister Crowley and it talks about Agrippa. It talks about quite a lot of different occultists. And the information is pretty okay when it comes to that bit. And there are some charts and stuff that I've taken pictures of previously that I will put on the screen now. And they're pretty all right. So where the information goes right, this is a book that is good. However, because of its views on witches, granted, yes, Richard did say that a lot of the people accused of witchcraft were simply not witches, and a lot of the supposed crimes of the witch were made up, or they were simply he didn't say this specifically, but they were perversions of Catholic beliefs. Yeah, he did touch on that, and that's fine, because it's true, that is what happened. But when you keep saying that pagans died out in like the 10th or 11th century, and the witch's horn god is the devil and not the pagan gods, that becomes a problem. And specifying that witches are evil and simply just slapping witchcraft into the devil worship section does not sit well with me, and it never will, and I will never be okay with it. It's an aged piece, and people should be aware of that. If you're looking for accurate information about witchcraft, this is not it. If you're looking for accurate information about magic, this is not it as well, even if a few things are okay. And I think that's all I will say on this book. If you've been interested in this book, that's your choice whether you want to read it or not. If you're looking for accurate magical and witchcraft information, even from a historical point, go somewhere else. This is not it. If you just simply are curious about perusing it and seeing what Richard says, and maybe you believe in what he said, Go ahead and read it. There are other versions of this book with different covers, and I'll grab a few offline and I'll put them on the screen. So, it has gone through some different makeovers. This is a nice, tame version of it. It has leaned more into the grab your attention style of imagery in the past because this book apparently has been popular amongst some celebrities of the past who are rumored to be into the occult. Whether they were or not, topic for a different time if I care to make a video on it. But yeah, this ain't it. This is lies about witchcraft, as is the vast majority of readily available mainstream material, books, documentaries, stuff like that. You still hear on TV that, oh, babies died out. Historians know better in 2026. They just do not care to say different. Some of them do, most of them don't care. This is a dated piece. Just read it. If you do read it, remember, it came out in 1967 in the UK. That's all you should really, that should be a red flag if you're looking for any accurate information. But yeah, thank you for watching. We had some technical difficulties, so I had to do this end again. But thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, many blessings to you and yours. And yeah, if you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Oh, it's cheesy, and I don't like the call to action stuff, but it really does, as I said in the beginning, it does benefit smaller channels to have the likes, comments, and subscribes, because it lets YouTube know that you're interested in this content and will show other people this video. It will say, okay, if the algorithm will notice that this video is liked, and will let other people know. And you'll find some other information. You'll be recommended more of my videos more likely, and possibly some other people's who's got content related to this. So yeah, content creators, a lot of us don't like that. Hey, you gotta subscribe. It feels annoying, but yeah, I don't do that all the time. But I'm gonna stop right now. Take care.